Kim.
Well, Scott and Tiffany, as you can see, the tennis court at Knoll Ridge Park is not one of these places. It's pretty empty here, and that's because most of the folks I spoke with today say it's just way too hot, sticky, and humid to be anywhere outdoors, which is why they're heading indoors to places with air conditioning to try to beat the heat. Jim Greif is checking on the rows of corn he hopes he'll be able to take to market.
Went between the rows and we tilled a strip of ground about 8 inches wide, about 8 inches deep, and put all the fertilizer on.
It's been a rough year for him and other farmers who struggled through last year's record drought.
We had 140 bushel corn, which is down, at least 25%.
Despite being hit by rounds of snow this winter, some of which is still on the ground, the dry spell isn't over.
We have had some recharge, but we're a long ways short of what we need to be back to normal.
But the dry forecast isn't stopping Jim and other Iowa farmers from planting corn. They're actually doubling up on it.
650 acres of corn and the rest will be 350 acres of soybeans this year.
The USDA predicts that farmers will plant a record number of corn this year, the most since the 1930s. So here's why. Because of last year's drought, less corn was produced, which caused its price to jump from its normal $3 a bushel to more than double that. So even with the soil still being dry because of the higher price of the corn, some farmers say it's a risk they're willing to take.
It's historical highs. It's never been like this before.
Not only is corn at a higher value, but so is its land. Experts say Iowa farmland prices have jumped nearly 18% since last year. But despite sitting on a potential pot of gold and no real end to the drought in sight, farmers like Jim say they're not selling out.
I was born and raised on a farm, and I'm going to die on the farm.
In Monticello, Kim Wynn, Fox 28 News.
I don't know what I'm doing here, but I thought, well, I had to come out and see if the girls were as pretty as I thought they were. You might as well leave because we're not.
There's never a dull moment when Miriam Lockwood and her former classmates get together.
I'm going to be happy all day with these people.
It's something she's been doing with them since 1940. Laughing, telling old stories.
Did they ever get together?
And at this year's 73rd reunion, remembering their teenage days when they were all students at Roosevelt High.
We're small in number, but we still try to get together every year.
Nearly 75 years later, and Roosevelt High is now Roosevelt Middle School. The outside pretty much looks the same, but it's what's happened inside that the class says they'll never forget. Some of those memories go back even further.
A few of us started the kindergarten 86 years ago.
Betty Siglin, known as Betty Harger back then, remembers young love.
Oh, I was in love with Bob in kindergarten. Every kindergartner has a boyfriend, don't they? He won't admit it, but hey.
While most of the group is now in their 90s, she and others make it a point to celebrate each year.
This is more like family than anything else, than school people.
We're all happy to be here. Feel very lucky that we are here. We count our blessings every day.
Covering the corridor in Cedar Rapids, Kim Wynn, CBS 2 News. For David and Mary Pasker, the sanctuary at River of Life Church brings back painful memories.
It was the final of everything of his life.
The last time they sat here was to say goodbye to their son. Sergeant First Class Terrell Pasker was killed in Afghanistan in 2011.
As far as the grieving aspect of it, still doing that.
Nearly 2 years later, they've kept his spirit alive through pictures, scrapbooks, and fond memories.
He ate 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm hungry, feed me. As long as he's fed, he was happy.
The Paskers are one of dozens of Iowa families still healing from the loss of a loved one who was killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. And each death, like Sergeant Pasker's, has left a wound in the small towns that they came from.
The memorial that they have is actually set up over at the school, outside of the gym at the high school.
Mike Kleinsmith was Pasker's 7th and 9th grade social studies teacher.
You hear about casualties of war and you always think and assume it'll happen somewhere else. And so when it finally happened here in our own backyard, it was quite a tragedy.
He says the impact of Pasker's death is still felt in Lisbon, where he went to school. The district uses this memorial outside of Lisbon High School to honor Pasker's life.
I would hope that our schools would stress the importance and the sacrifice of what young men like Terry gave to our country and to our hometown.
A sacrifice his parents call bittersweet.
Knowing that he died, but yet knowing he did what he wanted to do. He just chose to be with the troops.
For now, they'll continue to lean on their faith, knowing that one day they'll be able to see their son again.
I'll get that chance someday.